Hi guys, welcome to Shiva Sai's Perseverance Software Training Institute. So in this video, we'll be looking into RBAC in Kubernetes, right? So see, RBAC is all about role-based access control. So this focuses on the authorization aspect of users within Kubernetes cluster. So see, it is always important that who logged into our system and what they can do after they log in, right? So this is all about authentication and this is about authorization, right? So which user can do what? So we are talking about authorization now. All right, fine. So here when we take an example, so we have this actually for example, we have an admin user. So this user can do all this operations like viewing pods, creating secrets, deleting nodes, and so this implies he can do everything within the cluster. So we have another user, namely dev1, so he can only view the pods, create secrets, and other than these three actions he cannot do anything. So now we have dev2, he can only view or create pods. And finally we have a group, namely automation engineers, where they can view, create pods, create secrets, and create config maps. So see, for different users we have different requirements, so different access permissions to be associated, right? So in this context, RBAC. So RBAC stands for role-based access control. So it is all about enabling this, which user can do what, restricting users, all right, with a boundary wherein they can perform that according to the requirement, according to their role. Okay, so based on their role, we'll be enabling the access control for them within the cluster. So now when we talk about how we can do this, so we have two concepts here. One is role binding and second one is cluster role binding. So we have something like namespaces within Kubernetes, which is for isolating isolation, right? So within the namespace level, if we want to enable, permit the users for the objects within the namespace level, so we should go for role binding. And if that to be controlled at the cluster level for the objects like worker nodes, persistent volume, many as such, which is actually global to the cluster. So in that context, we'll go for cluster role binding. So now we'll be deploying both of this and understanding both. So firstly, let's review the manifest. So this is the manifest here. So if you see, we have apiVersion, and the role is, the kind is role, but we need to specify the namespace within which this particular role will be deployed. So here what we are creating is, there are two things, right? First thing, creation of permissions. Okay. Second thing is attaching these permissions to the required users, right? So that is the requirement. All right. So that's fine. Now we are firstly creating this. So creating the permissions. So if you see here, so these permissions are within the namespace default, meaning this is a role binding. It's not a cluster role binding, because cluster role binding will be at the cluster level. If you simply see the kind as role, this is at the namespace level, right? So within this namespace we will be creating something like developer roles. So now comes to the rule section, API groups, the select all API groups and resources. So we are actually enabling the permissions for some users in future, so that they can access pods, in the sense like they not access, they can control pods with only these three actions. One, they can get it, so they can get the pods, they can create a pod, they can delete a pod. Other than that, they cannot do any other actions with respect to pods. Now, when we talk about another rule within this particular role binding, this particular role. So here what happens is, like, we have API groups all selected. So resources secret, so they can get the secret, list the secret, and delete the secret. Okay, so fine. So this actually creates a role at the namespace level. So this is called as creation of a role using our manifest, right? So what we will do is we'll go with this. Yeah, we'll go to our cluster. So yeah, let me go to my cluster on Azure cloud. So I have a K8s cluster available. Okay, so yeah, this is running. So I can simply do one thing. I can actually go to this cloud shell. Let me go to this cloud shell. So firstly, what we are doing, we are basically creating a role. See, meanwhile, we can also discuss about the role binding, meaning once a role is created from the previous manifest, here we need to bind that role to some other user, right? Some required user. So what we are talking about here is we are creating a role and we are binding that role to the user. So now the kind is role binding. Before it was simply a role, right? Now it is role binding. So name of this is developers role binding, namespace is default, subjects. So the kind is user. So the name of the user is dev1 and this is API group. The kind is this information. You can freely select this template from the Kubernetes documentation, all right? So nothing to worry about that. So now the kind is user, name of the user is dev2, and this is the API group. So here when we talk about role reference, so we are telling that please bind a role to dev1 and dev2 users, but which role? So that we are referring here, kind is role, developers role, the one which got created here, right? This is the one, right? Developers role. So that with the required API group. So we can execute it now. So let's firstly connect to the cluster. So to connect to the cluster, we need to actually get the credentials. So az aks get credentials resource group. So it is Sai cluster, and the name of the cluster is Sai env. Okay. All right. So now if you see kubectl roles, yeah, and get role binding, nothing is there. Let's deploy now. So role.yml. You can actually put both in single one. So role binding .yml. So what we can do, we can paste here firstly with the role. So separate both manifest of role and role binding with 3 hyphens. Then we can put role binding manifest. I'll put this in the description. You can check it out. Okay. All right. So here we go. So this is role binding. So just copy. We are good now. So cat this YAML. So you would be able to see that we are having a role and role binding. Both the objects to be deployed. So just give kubectl apply -f. All right, and role binding.yml. So it should deploy both of this. Cool. So it deployed the role, right? And what it is doing, it once it is, basically it deployed the role, right? Now it is showcasing one more thing, which is role binding. So once the role is created, we have created role binding to actually attach this role to the required users. So bind the role to the required users, right? So that is done now. So now if you see kubectl get role, you should be able to see here. So this is today's date, right? Yeah. And when we talk about role binding, fine. All right, great. So here you can test it. So how we can test? So we have auth can I. All right. So maybe for example, create config map as dev-1 user. So it will tell yes or no. So actually, for our user, we do not have this permission of creating config map, right? So for example, we have the permission of creating secret. So if we check it, yeah, why it is telling no? Let us check. Oh, it is not there. Yeah. So we have not given create permission here. So let's check for delete then. Yeah. So we can give delete. Yeah. See, this is the way to check, to cross verify whether this is activated. So kubectl authorization can I delete, type of the object as the username. So enter, it should show as now. Yeah, clear? Cool. All right, so now let's also talk about, one more thing, which is in case of if you want to, uh, basically if you don't want to enable the permissions for the user for all the parts within the namespace, instead you can basically restrict them. For example, we have front-end part, back-end part, and DB parts within default namespace. You want to just enable the permission for front-end part and back-end part, you can do like this, okay? Right? So you can give resource names as well. Cool? Right. Perfect. Now let's also talk about cluster role binding here. So for binding cluster role, we should firstly create the cluster role. All right. So now let's see. So for example, we need to apply this for the cluster level object, which is nodes, right? We can put something like persistent volume, many other objects are there at the cluster level, right? So here, simply this is the API version, the kind will be cluster role, name of the cluster role, API group, resources, nodes, and we are just giving get permission to this, cluster role. And we should bind this to the user the same way as we did before in case of role binding, but here the kind differs. Perfect, right? Nothing else. So it's the same here. So if you give cluster role, it is there, but all these are auto created by during the K8s cluster creation. So kubectl get cluster role. So grab with developers. So we are filtering the cluster role, which includes the name of developers. So it is not available. So we are again filtering the binding as well. So with developers, it should not be available. Now let's create YAML. So cluster role hyphen cluster role binding .yml. So go here, let's take the manifest, right? Manifest, so just paste here. So we are manifesting our cluster role binding. So yeah, it is there. So now kubectl apply -f cluster role. Yeah, perfect. Alright, so if you see now cluster role, it should be deployed. Yeah, this is our cluster role. And if you see cluster role binding, it should be available. Yeah, cool guys, fine. So yeah, we are good there. So yeah, we'll get back with an informative video later. And if you want to check this as well, you can use the same kubectl authorization command. For example, can I delete nodes. So it is telling resource nodes is not namespace scoped. See, yeah, and it tells no. You got it. And if you see, can I delete? Because the manifest what we have, it was just for highlighting about get the nodes, right? So if you do get nodes, it should respond yes, perfect. And if you see, let's give create nodes, it should tell no. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, all right guys, thank you so much. So we'll get back with the informative video. And if you want to enroll for online or offline trainings with our institute, you can contact the displayed number in the description. Thank you.